All right, I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees for Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. If everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, to start the matter off here, the first item on the slate for tonight is the 6 p.m. zone change hearing, and I am going to turn that over to our zoning planning development director, Mr. Tom Ferrara.
Thank you.
Tom, the floor is yours.
Eric, could we have that picture up on the screen? We have before you a request for a zone change. The zone change went through the zoning commission and they voted unanimously to approve the zone change and sent that recommendation on to you. Fire department did not have any recommendation. The RPC recommendation was a denial. Their biggest concern, after reading their write-up on it, was that the rezoning the subject property to I-1 light industrial is a significant change for the neighborhood. And they recommended it stay a B2. But the change is really not that significant to this neighborhood. If you look at the map that we've got up on the screen, you can see where on the top Fisher's Market is. If we, Eric, can we scan down to the bottom? If we go down one block from Fisher's Market, we end up a little bit farther if it goes. Okay. United Architectural Metals is on Cleveland at Orion. They are a manufacturer. As you know, they manufacture glass and steel for very large glass buildings. They are an I-1 manufacturing in a B2 area. These were all grandfathered in, that's why they are there, but they are an I-1. Up above it to the north, right next door, is Central Transport, where semi trucks and transfer station. In the picture, you can see the trailers, the semi trailers that are parked transferring their goods. So, and the trucks go in and out all day. I don't know at what time of night they might go, but again, that is an I-1 business in a B2 zone. Just north of that, you have the a warehouse, hardware supply, where they have a warehouse and they distribute, or they did, from that warehouse, hardware supplies. I-1 business, a warehouse in a B2 zone. So with Fisher's going I-1, there really isn't that much of a change to the neighborhood. We've already got those three large I-1 businesses there. We received, it's out of the picture now, but catty corner to the northeast of the Fisher's Market, there is a condominium complex that the HOA president came to the zoning commission meeting and said he has no problem with Mr. Gilt's changing this to an I-1. The thing he doesn't want to see is this building sit empty. If you look back down towards architectural metals, up on the east side are all condominiums. We haven't received any complaints at all from any of these condominiums about noise or anything. So these businesses have been operating at a level that doesn't bother the neighbors. I think that is it. If you have any questions, gentlemen, and
Actually, for the sake of this, before the board makes any comments, we need to check, is there anybody on the line tonight that's wishing to speak in support or in opposition to this plan? I'm assuming it appears we don't have anybody else from the general public on the line. So that being said, we will start with board comments. I just want to lead off with, quite frankly, I'm extremely disappointed in regional planning. I think they completely missed the boat on this one. They failed to look beyond the immediate parcel because, I mean, relatively easy justification based upon things that are going on there. And I think longer term, the inability and or the failure to anticipate with the current economic situation and taking into account retail space, how folks are reducing footprints, there's less of a need for these big boxes. I don't want to be sitting here, you know, with an empty building and us potentially dealing with, you know, another Oakwood Square version 2.0 prior to the restoration. And I think what makes this project all the more compelling to the township is, you know, the folks that have worked diligently in a timely manner to turn Oakwood Square around are the same individuals who are looking to perform this project. And never once have we had what I would consider a misstep or any major issues. They've been very collaborative. So again, the long-term risk, I think, was a major oversight by regional planning. But I find this to be a desirable proposition. In fact, during the zoning hearing, it was noted that they expect the truck traffic to actually be significantly less than that of which the grocery store gets, not only in volume of trucks, but the timing of the trucks, where, you know, with grocery, a lot of them are early morning, of course, with them, whether they're Class A or Class B trucks, with the reverse, you know, beeping. I guarantee that's got to be more of a nuisance to anybody in the residential areas than what we're going to see with constricted hours. And the reality is, it's still even taking into account, you know, what other uses could be done with this property pending an approval. It's not just about the immediate plan. I still think it's about whatever could still go in there in the future should the current plaza owner wish to switch gears, make different investment choice. I still feel extremely comfortable with the other options that are out there. So that being said, I'm gonna look, Brooke or John, if either of you have any comments or questions.
I couldn't have said any better than Scott. You hit the nail on the head with the fact that we don't want another Oakwood Square situation where it just is abandoned and empty for years. And then, like you had mentioned, with the people who have provided all the buildings into Oakwood Square and revitalized it, we definitely know that they get the job done. They do hard work, and they will make it into a growing and prosperous plaza.
Yeah, I would think that I would echo all those considerations. One thing, like I always do with these, I went up, I drove the neighborhoods. I went on the backside because there's some places to actually get to that backside. You have to go around. There's not a direct connection to the neighborhoods in the back, so you have to go a considerable way. And I remember actually what we did when that senior citizens housing went in up there, because I was fire chief then, and I remember that. But the thing that impressed me the most about this, that caught my attention, was usually these kinds of changes are going to get a lot of participation and a lot of questions from the surrounding people, and most of them are going to be negative. And in this particular case, it was just the opposite. The one and only one that we got was more positive than it was negative. So I think that goes a long way in us making our decision when we go to move forward and vote on this.
Is there any other comments that anybody has? Okay, barring no further discussion on this matter, I'll make a motion that we approve the zoning application as it relates to applicant 1 GS 8100 Company LLC for the address of the property affected at 8100 Cleveland Avenue, Canton, Ohio 44720.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Okay, that will conclude the public hearing regarding the zoning amendment. So that will take us, we will now go to our agenda. And since we let off right with this hearing, I want to check, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads regarding the regular business agenda?
I have none.
I don't have any.
I've got two that I'm gonna put under concerns of trustees. One's Canton Township and two's Hall of Fame Marathon.
Sir, this is Tom Ferrara. I have one as well. Since we've already voted on this resolution, yeah, that is the only item on zoning's docket at this time. So we can remove that
Okay. Duly
Don't
noted.
change number 1.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other changes? Okay, hearing none, the agenda will stand as amended. First item, new business, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. I'll actually turn that over to Mrs. Harless.
What about, no, new business number 1, opening a blanket to various vendors.
Oh, yeah, I don't, yep, I do have that resolution to open that blanket to various vendors in the amount of $12,169.72 from Fund 01B02.
I will so move on new business number 1.
Second.
Discussion, just a point of clarification. These are the insurance monies that have not come in correct as it relates to the water damage sustained in the zoning office, and essentially to cover the cost of, I don't want to say remodeling, but refinishing the zoning office due to the damage.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Now, new business number 2.
Yes, Jim, good to see you again. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce Jim Knight. He is the crime prevention specialist with the Stark County Prosecutor's Office, as well as on the sex trafficking task force. And he wanted to give us an update on some crime prevention tips that we could use in Plain Township, given the recent strings of scam calls, break-ins, and so forth that we have going on. Jim, it's all yours.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you again to the Plain Township trustees for having me share tonight. Again, I am Jim Knight with Stark County Prosecutor Kyle Stone's office. I'm the crime prevention specialist, and I just wanted, as Mrs. Harless said, to share some basic tips and things that you may want to share with the residents and offer whatever services that we in our office can give, especially as it relates to home security. So I'm just kind of scratching the surface here. We go in deeper with our presentations, but just some important tips to be aware of. They may sound common sense and pretty basic, but at the same time, what we want though is for people to refresh their memories and to take those extra steps, because while we can't ultimately prevent a crime from happening, because if somebody wants to get into somebody's property, they will try to find a way. But we want to make it that much harder. We can't prevent ultimately, but we can deter. And a lot of times that can solve a lot of the problems. Most important around homes, just very briefly, always, even if you're at home, lock all your doors, your front door and your back door, whether you're home or not. And the exterior door frame should be of a metal or solid wood with a, and also to keep your entry doors well lit, both your front doors as well as your back porches. Lighting has always been known to be a good deterrent. If you can, to have a wide angle door viewer, but if you're not expecting somebody when they come to the door, don't feel you have to answer it. If it's somebody dropping off a package, don't leave the package. And if you have a window by your front door, it's also not a good idea to put river rocks or other items, especially if somebody really wants to try and get in and they don't think that you're at home. They may try to, if they really want to get in, they may try to take the rock or the item and throw them through the window as a way to gain entry. And also, don't keep a spare key under a flower pot or under a doormat. I know it may seem like it's convenient, but it's always a better idea, if possible, maybe give that to a trusted friend or family member. As for garages, always have them well lit entries and solid doors. If you have items in there, if you have a window in the garage and if it's a low garage, maybe consider draping some of the like your lawnmower or other equipment that you may have in there. Whether you park your vehicles inside the garage or outside, always a good idea. Obviously, remove your valuables, roll up the windows, lock the doors, even loose change, take those out. And if you park your car outside, as I will go back to, taking your remote control garage opener, because that has been a known way for thieves that want to try to get in can do that. And it's even a good idea to do that even if when you're at home, even if you're in the backyard. A lot of times I'll come across reports where it's not the victim's fault by any means, but like I said, we don't want to make it easy for them. The garage door was left open and somebody may be in the backyard pulling weeds or mowing the yard. Somebody sneaks in and takes what they want, especially if the keys are in either vehicle, they may try and take the vehicle. So obviously just make sure we always want to secure our stuff. As for lighting, like I said earlier, excellent deterrent. Place on the yard poles or beneath the eaves of the house, and always make sure that it's shining at a downward slanting angle. And try to clear shrubbery or trees or any other foliage away from the windows and doors so that it's not blocking the lights. And never place security lights at a ground level. And always make sure, it's always a good idea to make sure in case of emergencies that your house number is well lit, especially in the evenings, or if a resident lives on a dark road. Make sure that their address numbers or any other part of their house is well lit. And also, if you're not home, leave on some lights or even a radio. Inside lights will help with the impression, obviously, that someone is home, whether or not, or whether they're gone for the evening or on vacation. And speaking of vacation, a couple of quick things. You can check with your sheriff's office about getting a vacation check. Let them know when you're leaving and when you plan to be back. Obviously, if you're coming home early, let them know. Definitely let them know in advance. Try to stop or have a friend or family member collect mail or newspaper so that those don't start to stack up and leave a suggestion. Also, the cliche, unfortunately, is true. Don't post on social media if you're going to be out when you're out of town while you're on vacation. Wait till you get back, because sometimes thieves or criminals have taken advantage of that before. For window locks, you may want to install and check with the locksmith on good, strong, solid window locks. But most importantly, make sure that the windows are down. Keep valuables away from the windows so that they're not anything in there that's going to tempt somebody. Also, psychological deterrent, you may want to consider placing some large gravel on the ground near the windows. As could be, like I said, a psychological deterrent. And you can even put plants under the windows, but kept to a height that's below the windowsill. And if you are going to put plants in the window, if you want to have a little fun with it, consider putting the spiky, thorny kind of plants. So these would be be less likely to want to hide under those. As for your garage sheds, obviously always leave locked and closed when they're not in use, and have a padlock to secure. And any outdoor furniture or tools and bikes, have them in the garage, or just leave them out of, take those out of the yard and store them. If you can chain down, even better. Put the serial number on your valuables, because if something does happen, they are taken. That might be something that can help the sheriff's office out. And like I said, with the garages, if you have a window in your shed, consider draping a sheet or blanket over any of the mowers or any of the equipment. So if somebody is able to still look in the window, they're not going to really maybe see anything of value. As for alarm systems, the best thing I can say is do plenty of research. Get at least a couple of different estimates, more than one, and stick to the basics, whether you're going for more traditional or online based, and then check with law enforcement on any licensing requirements. It's always a good idea as well to keep your phone fully charged and by your bedside. And along with that, you can always call 911, but if you can, put the police department or sheriff's office's number, have that saved in your phone. And a couple of other things that you can do: post a security yard sign or a window decal, whether you have an alarm system or not. Although I think it's probably better if you can, or if you can, I know it's a huge expense, but own a dog or a big dog with the beware of dog sign in front of the door. But if you don't feel comfortable going even that route, what you can also do, and if you live alone, place a set of big construction boots outside on the front porch. These are all, like I said, some psychological deterrents. And from burglars I've heard before who have been interviewed on TV, they also say leave a vehicle out in the driveway, whether you're home or not. If you have two cars, maybe consider leaving one vehicle out in the driveway. Obviously, because that gives the impression somebody's home, but obviously lock the doors, roll up all the windows, remove the valuables, and again, take in that garage door opener. But like I said, I just scratched the surface. I apologize if I went a little fast, but couple of the best things I can say to do is, because I heard from a former burglar, he was asked, what is the best thing that was the strongest deterrent? What really worked? And he said, more than cameras or alarm systems or things like that, those are all great and utilize that, but really get to know your neighbors. That was a big one, because they saw that they could tell that neighbors were watching out for one another. What I mean by that is that the neighbors wouldn't confront them or put themselves in harm's way, but would be the eyes and ears of their police department. They were less likely to try to do something. They would go on possibly to another neighborhood. Because if they saw that, if nothing else, if somebody was walking around the yard suspiciously of one person's house, somebody at the very least just said, excuse me, can I help you? That would stop them. You think, oh, well, I must be too early, or they'd try to make up a story. And then they'd soon leave. So not all maybe like that, but still, it can be an effective deterrent. And like I said, We don't ever want neighbors confronting a suspicious person or trying to take off in their car after them. Just report what you see and know from a safe place. Just keep, be thinking about your safety first and just report what you know. Even if it's you get half a license plate, just turn that over to the police department, be their eyes and ears. Finally, what I do, and I go into this in more depth, I've had the pleasure to host neighborhood crime watch meetings in the Plain Township area. I'm always still available to do that, even now through Zoom, or eventually even when things return to normal. But we're always available to help out, to help to get those started. And we work with Sheriff George Meyer's office, and they've been an excellent partner. So we've really enjoyed working with all our law enforcement agencies that we have here in Stark County, and we just want to help out however we can. So I think, Brooke, feel free to pass along, my information to everybody, and that I'm always available, answer any questions that they have, or if I don't know the answer, I'll try to help find out for them.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jim. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with us. And I definitely took some notes. And as soon as we hang up and we're done with our meeting, I'm removing the colored rocks that my kids have drawn on the front porch because Dad's right by the window. So I definitely learned something tonight. Thank you.
Wonderful. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jim, quick question,
Yes.
quick question for you. Based upon guidance, historical trends, most burglars clearly don't want to be caught. And it used to be that folks are typically home at night, they're gone during the day. So you'd see more break-ins during the day because they figure there's a lower statistical probability
Right.
of being caught. But the challenge being within the last year, approximately, there's a lot more folks working from home. Are you guys hearing or seeing any difference in trends, given more folks working from home? Are burglars becoming, braver and still attempting to try to do it while people may or may not?
I might, just speaking for myself, the report copies will, I'll see. I don't see a specific trend myself, and the sheriff's office may be able to answer better, but what I am still seeing are listed a lot of crimes of opportunity. I'm still seeing a lot of times vehicles are left unlocked, and valuables that are being left in the car. One case, somebody had their laptop in their front seat. So that's still a lot. What I'm seeing are crimes of opportunity. That still has remained the main thing I've witnessed. And I'm not trying to say that people, if they're going to leave their doors are unlocked or anything like that, they deserve what happened. Not at all. They don't. But it's just that what I was trying to talk about still, even today with the pandemic, we still, using our awareness and taking those little steps, just those simple things, just locking up our cars or locking up our sheds or things like that. That's going to be really our best defense. And sometimes I forget to do some of those simple things. So that goes for me too, to take that extra step.
Well, thank you again for your time this evening. That'll conclude the administrator or the new business. It's going to take us to the fiscal officer's report, and I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for a resolution to authorize payment of pending warrants in the amount of $67,456.58.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
You're on mute, John.
Yeah, I was going to say, give him a minute there.
Sorry, that is a yes.
okay. Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes,
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the financial report for January.
If anybody's got questions, feel free to see Tom after the meeting.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is the bank reconciliation.
Okay. Good to go.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for resolution to authorize a true-up payment to the State of Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation in the amount of $17,071.
I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Hey, Tom, is this just because of like revised payroll numbers or something? I'm asking because, the state's given out these credits back to us over the last couple of years. I just find it ironic that there's a true up payment.
Yeah, the way it works is for workers' comp, you have to estimate what your payroll is going to be for the upcoming year.
Yeah.
So then if the payroll comes in higher, whether it was hazard pay or something like that, then you have to report those excess wages and pay the premium on them.
So would some of the COVID money that we paid in wages, that would have an impact?
Yeah, that would be part of it, or any new hires. So yeah, they're still getting their money, but supposedly they're going to be reducing the rates for the upcoming year. I don't think it's official yet. So hopefully we'll see some savings, but in the meantime, we have to pay the true up payment.
Understood. It's crazy that they would factor in, and I'm sure it's probably a smaller percentage for us, but to factor in, true up off of any COVID related funds, taking taxes on tax dollars that have been borrowed is just lunacy at its finest from my perspective, but.
Definitely.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes,
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 7 is a request for resolution to provide for the current expenses and other expenditures of the Plain Township Board of Trustees during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2021. The following sums be and the same are hereby set aside and appropriated for the several purposes for which expenditures are to be made for and during said fiscal year as follows.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
yes,
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 8 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
I'll move on fiscal officer number 8.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes,
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 9 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment in amount not to exceed $7,492 to be taken from 01A 26Q to reimburse the Canton Municipal Court for Plain Township's proportional share of the operating cost.
So moved.
second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes,
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
And that concludes the fiscal officer report.
Okay, thank you. It's going to take us to our administrator, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to discontinue the extension of the Family First Coronavirus Response Act on February 28th, 2021.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, the
Roll.
board had extended it for 2 months. It's just, after talking with all the department heads, a good time to just, pick an end date for it.
I would agree. And what that translates to is if somebody would get sick or whatever, they've got to use their allocated sick time or any other time that they have available to them. So,
Exactly.
okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Okay, item number 2 is a resolution to reimburse Royal Docks, Feder House and Kitchen in the amount of $22,116.97 for the COVID Cares Business Grant from Fund 14A08V to be used on a reimbursement basis for the township businesses for COVID-related expenses.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Is this money coming from what the county has? Because our
Yeah.
prior meetings, we had indicated that we had expended all resources.
And
So
we
where's
thought we
this?
Yep, we thought we had, and again, we were working at a fast and furious pace given the December 31st deadline. But when all of the calculations were done, all of the receipts, everything in, we have about $100,000 left. We're going to use the majority for park salaries in relation to COVID because they are once again going to have to continue with the playgrounds and the bathrooms on an hourly basis like last year. And Royal Docks did send in one more grant, and we do have the funds available if the board so chooses.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I have a question. What is the online order process servers? It says the invoices are attached and I do not have that.
Well, they're attached for Tom to review.
Okay.
She can attach them in here, but it's a new system that they use to be able to order online.
So Brooke, hey, Brooke,
Yes.
have you been into any of the restaurants where they're not handing out the menus and they got that QR code
Oh,
on the tables and stuff?
yeah. Okay.
So you pull up your own menu. That's essentially part of what it
Keep
is.
the COVID related. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification. It was COVID related. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and Tom Wolf and I had talked, and obviously they would have never done that, but for COVID. And they're in a tough spot having opened right when COVID started. So it seemed like a very good expense to be reimbursed.
Well, thank you, Scott, for that clarification.
Yep.
Yeah.
You figure, so Lisa, just for the record, we've done essentially a little over $200,000 in small business grants through the
Yes.
COVID relief, correct? Okay.
Yes, yep, absolutely.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
And item number 3 is just an update that we will be opening the offices back up to the public the day after President's Day, February 16th. Mr. Haynes has already called, worked that out with our vendor. So the doors will be open to the public beginning then. And then item number 4 is just a reminder that the next meeting of the Board of Trustees on February 23rd will be at Station 3. So far at 6 o'clock, we don't have a work session scheduled. So just a reminder to put that on your calendar. We will do another press release letting everyone know that's where it'll be. We can still socially distance, and that gives a chance for those folks on that side of the township to attend a meeting if they so choose.
Like we did last time, did we send that over to we sent that over to the HOA as a heads up, so.
Mhm. Yep, and they distributed it for us. And
Okay.
then with that, that's the end of the administrator report.
Thank you, Lisa. It's going to take us to the fire department. Chief Schallenberger.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to promote Stephen Jokey from part-time status to full-time status pending satisfactory completion of Ohio Police and Fire medical physical, wages and benefits to be set by the collective bargaining agreement.
I will move on fire department number 1.
Second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment of 1 DCU series truck cap and glide bed from RS Truck Caps for a Ford 150 pickup truck not to exceed $8,500.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
And that concludes the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Road Department, Mr. Iacino.
Chairman, item number 1 tonight is a copy of the resignation from John Beeg that I received on February 2nd. After talking with Lisa and the board, we decided that Friday the 29th will be his last day. And Luther did leave the last day as the 29th for all benefits also.
We're good there. We're good there.
And item number 2, I received the 2020 Township Speed Zone studies that we requested through the Stark County Engineers Office. The first one was 55th Street between Kansas City Corporation Line and Middle Branch Avenue. The results came back at 40 mph, which is the existing speed limit. We were trying to get that lowered to 35 once again. I do believe that's the second time we've put that through. And then we also had Bentler Avenue between Easton and Hahn Street. That result came in actually higher than it's posted at 40. And the county engineer's office recommends we retain the existing speed as is.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just a stretch. That's just a stretch of road, given the straight shot. That's always a constant challenge. I know for the sheriff's office. So I mean, even if it was posted down to 35 or something lower, still going to deal with those same speeding issues. Given the driveway access points, there's a couple of them that I could see as a homeowner are definitely a little nerve-wracking, possibly pulling out if you're not listening and looking close enough.
There is one dip there on Bentler that before you get to Hahn, that could be a problem for some site problem.
As we all know, it's not just a single factor there. The state's got a crazy amount of multiple factors from road width and banking and line of sight. So
I have the complete study in my office for both of those. If anybody wishes, a pretty thick study for each one. So
okay.
That ends the road department report. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So do we have to do anything formal? Because there's one sentence in here that says, based on the above results, the Stark County Engineers Office recommends retaining the existing speed limit. So are we to just
Historically, there's
believe
nothing.
that it'll stay the same?
Yeah, John, it'll all stay the same. We won't.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Zoning, that was removed. So Parks Department, Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. The only item for tonight is an resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Soccer One for some steel soccer goals in an amount not to exceed $3,675 from Fund 14A08.
I will so move.
Second. Sorry.
Discuss. I'm not sure who beat who to the punch on that that one. So Tom, whoever ends up in the minutes, we'll call it good.
Okay.
As far as discussion, Rob, just a quick question for you. I know a couple of years ago we ended up getting rid of a couple very heavy goals. I think that are over at Middle Branch Elementary now. I'm assuming these new ones mirror what we've already just got on site. I only asked the question because of the reference to steel.
These are actually a little lighter. They're as strong. They're probably a little more durable. They're a little lighter and more able to be moved. It's just the type of material that was used to make them. But the goals that we have replaced them with we couldn't repurpose those if we wanted to or donate those. They're just completely shot from years and years and years of usage.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes Parks.
Okay, nothing for the law director or communications. It does bring us to the portion of the meeting, public speaks. Do we have anybody on the line from the general public that wishes to address the Board of Trustees? And if so, we would ask you state your name and address for the record. Appears we have none. So we'll close public speaks. Next is concerns of trustees. And I've got two items here. I'm actually gonna go with number 2 first, which is Hall of Fame marathon. Been working with them over the last week and a half. They're trying to get their plans pulled together. I know they've actually met with Lieutenant Carver already. All seems good. We'll let Ryan speak to that, but they've also had sign off from the Stark County Health Department. When I was talking with Jim, essentially this is like a bare bones stripped down race. So they're not even encouraging folks out along the race route, whereas traditional races would have, you know, cups with water. Everything's going to be bottled. They've cut the registration by 50%, and there's no race expo or post race party. So I'm bringing this up because, like years past, this does go through a portion of the township over in the Avondale allotment area. In an exchange with Jim today, he's asked that we put him on the agenda for next meeting, the 23rd, where he can come and present to the complete board the details and so forth. We were chatting, he goes, they simulated their start finish protocols this past Sunday at the Super Sunday 5K. So this is something that's just coming. This was intended to be more so informational, but for the sake of next meeting agenda, let's make sure we've got Jim on under new business at the front of the meeting. I've already made him aware that we're meeting at the center, or not central, but Station 3. So that being said, going to number 1 now that I have listed as Canton Township. I've worked with Joe on this. I was approached by Chris Nichols with Canton Township, essentially the section of 17th Street, which is over the Myers Lake area approximately. They have approached us because there used to be an agreement. It was understood as a handshake agreement. Joe's actually found some documentation that acknowledges there's a handshake agreement, but prior law director, Dick Kuhn, it doesn't appear boards of trustees for whatever reason, you know, put any more detail in writing outside of what the handshake agreement is. What they're looking for is trying to find a way to create greater parity in cost coverage. Essentially, right now, 17th Street Northwest, east of Broad, has been maintained by Plain Township since 1995. I'm not going to get off into the measurements and so forth, but then the western side of 17th Street from Broad to Lakeside, Canton Township is maintained. And in their approach with us, you know, trying to get to greater parity, uncertain whether this is driven by their law director or if it's just simply their new public works director down there that was taking a look at this. But we need to be able to provide Joe with some direction on how we want him to draw out all the details here. Couple things. This just isn't about snow plowing. You know, it's really the road maintenance too. And actually the road maintenance piece is probably the bigger part of it. Joe had shared with me that in 2004 and again in 2019, we have repaved the section of that we've handshake maintained. It's unknown the last time that Canton Township has paved their section. So that being said, you know, how we move forward, you know, we need to ferret out some details here to give Joe some direction. Joe, do you want to add maybe a little more context just for John and Brooks'
Yeah,
benefit?
we did run some numbers, and what we've spent so far on paving our section that we've been maintaining, which half is, the north half is in Plain Township and the south half is in Canton Township. We have those numbers and how we pave and what our specific way of paving and grinding. I'm not sure what theirs is. I cannot remember that road being paved in the last 20 some years. So we did it twice. I know they want us to contribute to some of the payment for them to pave 17th Street. I want to know, you know, how you want me to go about that. How much do you think we should contribute, if any, once we make that decision.
I'm going to chime back in here unless John or Brooke has something to say. You know, just for dynamics here, the reason this is split how it is because if we just maintain the north lane and they just maintain the south lane, you could have one lane that is completely plowed and the other that's not. You could have one lane that's completely paved new, the other that's not. And honestly, that contributes to issues would contribute long-term for us, just with how you'd blend those surfaces, the new with the old. My concern is this. I want to make sure I'm on record. I do think, you know, from, you know, covering our fair share of the cost is important, but I think before we commit to a dollar figure, I do think we need to share with them, hey, here's the cost that we've already expended. Twice we've paved. We're unsure of when the last time was you paved, because quite frankly, we could argue that there was some benefit that we've provided them that hasn't been matched on the other section of the roadway that they have maintained. So, you know, that all being said, I think in an immediate, until it's like a net even, I don't know if we come off of any money. I'm just throwing this out for discussion. It's just my thought. Once we're at a point where it's even, okay, we can find a way to do that cost sharing. But I think one of those underlying elements too is whose road maintenance standards are they going to be adhered to, from the aspect of the quality of the paving material and so forth. And this isn't intended to be a dig at Canton Township, but their road budget is a fraction of what ours is. And, you know, the trustees down there, I don't envy them. They have a difficult time, you know, getting some of the additional resources to pass to be able to do some of that. You know, they've started to pick up more miles within the last couple of years, but it's chip and seal. Plain Township, we don't chip and seal. We've been paving, we've tried some micro surfacing, but just some thoughts. I'll shut up now.
One more quick thing, Scott. We have those agreements with other townships. We have an agreement with Lake Township on Mount Pleasant, and we have an agreement with Nemasilin Township on Bettler. And it's always been, we maintain a certain, you know, distance from one to the other, both lanes, and they have the same, and they've always paved and fixed signs or whatever needed done. So with both those other townships. So this isn't something irregular for us to have.
Yeah.
I just think that, if we do have those agreements, I know we have those agreements with other townships. I'm not 100% certain how that unfolds when it comes to the actual paving process versus plowing. But either way, you don't want to do half a road regardless of what happens. So you have to have some consistency in who is going to be responsible for what. So I know Bentler's that way. So would it be fair to say, Joe, that Nimishillen would keep up a timing consistent to ours, that if we were to blacktop what we have considered to be our half, that they have equally done the same thing? Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
They have.
And John, I just want to add a little more context. I don't know if you were on the board yet, but remember Bentler with how the road was getting washed out because of the ditch, the county come in, and honestly, I'd approached Nimishillen Township about even part of the cost sharing and some of the aggregate and stuff to help with that through there. So they've been very good from my perspective on anything.
We also have an agreement with Jackson on Wise Avenue. 1 year we take care of it, 1 year they take care of it, snow removal wise. And Navy is the same thing. When that date comes up, one time we pave it, the next time they pave it. So it's something, just another township that we have that agreement. When the center line is our corporation line, I don't see any other way.
We know, do we know what shape 17th on Canton Township side is in relation to when it's going to be ready for a resurfacing?
Well, I do believe they're thinking about doing it this year. It is in dire need of it, John.
Okay.
Patch on top of patch. It's pretty bumpy. But the way I understood it through their public works director, they wanted to do it this year.
Did he approach us?
Originally, he approached me, and then I think Mr. Nichols approached you, Scott.
Yes.
Okay. And their road superintendent has all those figures and the data that you presented to us regarding how many times we paved what we agreed to be responsible for.
No, I haven't sent that to him yet. Our original conversation was about the agreement, and I gave him send him a copy of that handshake agreement.
Okay.
So I guess on that note, I think the first step is at least we call out, or we provide those details to them. Joe, I don't know if you want to start with that directly with the road superintendent or their public works guy down there. I can have the follow-up conversation with Chris and Mark is a preemptive heads up that, hey, we've crunched some of these numbers. We're going to be following with them. There's a couple details that really need to be.
I can contact him tomorrow. That's not a problem, and we can talk our end out. If you want to talk with the other board members from your end.
Okay.
Even if we just catch up now to what we have expended compared to what they have expended, and then come to a known agreement that regardless of who does which end next, we'll share the cost in that. That way, we're not paying more or they're not paying more. And by sharing the cost, whatever, we do both sides on the east side, that's going to be a 50-50 split, regardless of how long or how short it is. Same thing on the other side. So if we come to that kind of agreement, that'd be the easiest way to do it, I think.
If that's the kind of agreement that both boards want, that's fine with us too.
I just think from a speculative aspect, even if they have some improved funding down there. I mean, last time public information was posted on life cycle replacement, their poor roads down there were somewhere between 25 and I think 32 years for a replacement life cycle. And essentially right now with where we're at Joe, what's it been the last 4 years now? We've been hitting right about 17 miles. We're hitting almost 10% of our roadway. So we're almost a 10-year replacement cycle.
Correct.
What I don't
Between
want to
10
get in,
We're between 10 and 12 right now, so.
yeah, my concern is I don't want to put the cart too far before the horse, but I would rather some of these details be spelled out with them, and that, okay, they have to be prepared. Plain Township's keeping with a 10 to 12-year cycle, assuming funding, allows. They're going to have to be able to come up with that, money ahead of time. And I think with how we score the roads and we track that and stuff, I don't think it's unreasonable for if they were to ask, hey, we're going to need some advance notice. I mean, going from 1 year into the next, I mean, we're always on top of it. But I think spelling out the frequency, and so forth, because I don't want them coming back to us going, hey, we can't, do it this year. And then it gets into, maybe we can swap this, or maybe we can pay this back later. I want to know that it's paid, and we're not running, it's not a line of credit one way or another, but yet we're still being good local stewards and collaborators with a fellow township. I just think some of it needs spelled out.
I agree with
Hey,
you.
Joe, would it be fair to say that the east side probably gets more heavier vehicle traffic because of Hall of Fame going in and out from that side versus the neighborhood side going west?
My guess would be yes, John. Between that and McKinley High School, you got a lot of bus traffic there too. So, and as the Hall of Fame continues to grow, I'm sure there's going to be more traffic there. The other one's just a little rural, a little urban road that cuts between two major roads. So.
Yeah, I mean, just even that short a distance, I would assume there's a lot more traffic going the other direction than going west.
I agree. Yes, most definitely.
So, Joe, you've got the direction you need for right now to move forward, at least with conveying the figures and so forth with Canton Road Superintendent, and then bringing any details back to us for any other arrangement. I'm assuming the next piece would be once any type of written agreement, we'll need Mr. Eric Williams to use his handy legal work to get something in writing, because I'm definitely not a fan of the handshake agreement. Even though we've got a piece of paper that says from former law director Richard Kuhn saying, yep, we have some type of handshake agreement, but again, the details are really sort of out there. That's not good. That's not peace of mind. We need to be able to manage what's the known. So.
Yeah, and I think we need to probably do that wherever we have handshake agreements. I think it's just something we ought to button up while we're at it, because I know we've got some of those out there with different other entities. And so if at some point somebody could, whether that's Joe or somebody from the board or whatever, could get me a list of those, I'd be happy to start putting something together so we can memorialize those, so we're not caught off guard by any.
Eric, I'm not even.
I think, Joe, you
Other
see
agreements that we actually have that states what's getting taken care of.
Okay, good. That's good to hear.
any other questions or comments on this topic? Okay. John or Brooke, anything under concerns of trustees? Are you good?
Yes.
Let's see here. That'll take us to concerns of the fiscal officer, Mr. Wolf.
No concerns.
Okay, it's going to take us to the approval of the minutes for January 26, 2021. I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Okay, we do have a need for executive session, so I'm going to make a motion be hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 7:05 PM from this regular meeting is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of consideration of 1F, compensation of a public employer official, 2A, the purchase of real, personal, tangible, or intangible property, and 7A.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to return from executive session at 8:26 PM.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
There are no announcements from executive session. I'll make a motion that we adjourn from this regular meeting at 8:26 PM.
I'll second it.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.